Previously, Bobby Fischerman found out from the mouse that his friends had been captured by eagles and taken to Potser prison over on the other side of the island, and they were now stuck in Cloud City. He had been trying to decide what he should do next, and after much debate and consideration, and after reading through all of your comments, he decided that the only thing to do would be to go save his friends before he went to the dragon's lair. He was trying to determine the best route to get there when a magician walked up to him. The magician said, "Are you going to the festival?" Bobby said, "What festival?" The magician said, "It's the chess puzzle festival. It happens once every year at the end of the road." Bobby said, "Nope, I didn't even know that was a thing." The magician said, "Yes, some of the toughest puzzles on the island, but the winner gets to go to the dragon's lair and choose one piece of treasure as a prize for winning first place in the tournament." And when Bobby heard this, his ears perked up and he thought maybe this was an easy way to get some of the treasure that he could use to give to the pirates and get off of the island. So he asked the magician if he would take him with him to the festival. The magician said, "Well, if you can solve this puzzle to prove that you're worthy of the competition, I'll take you with me." Bobby said, "Let's see what it is." And with that, the magician presented him with the following position. This is the position that the magician presented to Bobby. It's white to play and win. White's pawns are going forward in this direction. Before I say too much, if you would like to pause, how do you think white can win this position? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the winning move for white in this position is the move knight to c4. Now, why in the world is this the winning move? Well, let's talk about what's going on here. First of all, it looks pretty nice for white. You've got the extra knight. This pawn's about to get captured. You still have a pawn over here. But here's the problem, and here is what white needs to watch out for. If you just casually take this pawn, your king is now too far to help support this guy, and black simply pushes this pawn forward, and they're getting ready to force a trade. Yes, you can bring your knight in, but after g4, you can throw in a check, but then the king simply slides over, and there's no way to stop these pawns from being traded. If you move back, black simply takes you. And of course, if you take here, well, black can take either one of these and it's going to be a draw. Even just taking the pawn is good enough. You can't win with just a knight. Okay, and this is kind of one of the major problems for white in this position. If black ever pushes this and forces a pawn trade, you're not going to be able to win because you need that pawn to stay alive. That's why white can't get away with capturing this pawn. So the only move is knight to c4. Sorry, knight to c4 is the only winning move. Now, king to f3 is actually a very nice looking move as well, because if you're trying to stop this pawn from coming here, why not put your king there? Because it controls the square. Here's what black's going to do in this case. King to e5. And now black is threatening to come around this way, and this pawn might be a problem. So for example, if you run over here and start trying to take these guys, black is going to come in and start trying to attack your knight. For example, we take here, king comes in. And now we have a problem here. And you might say, well, Nelson, can't we just go knight to b3? And when black pushes the pawn, we sacrifice and then we win? We just come here, we take this, and we get a queen? Like, what's the problem? So if you would like to pause, actually, and think of it from black's perspective, what do you think black would play instead of d2 here to draw the game? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is king to f4. Actually, king to f4 or king to f3 both would work, I believe. But the point here is that black is keeping white's king stuck, can't really do anything. And the knight can't really come over to help because it has to keep an eye on this pawn. And so you kind of just end up with this back and forth game where black just sort of shuffles, from between here and here. And yes, you can throw in a check, but again, the king's just going to come here. Yes, you can, move your knight around. But if you ever get too far away, well, then black just pushes the pawn, right? So that's kind of what's going on, and there's actually no way for white to make progress. So going all the way back to the original position, we've seen the problem with capturing. We've seen the problem, with king to f3. And so because of that, the only winning move, knight to c4. Okay, notice how it takes away that e5 square so the black can't come over this way. All right. So black plays g5. Of course, they're trying to play g4 and trade off these pawns as quickly as possible. That's a guaranteed draw. So if you'd like to pause, what do we play now as white? If you had a chance to look at that, the move now is king to f3, because now we do need to stop that. And the difference is that the king doesn't have the option to go over to e5 like before and come around this way. So that's the importance of knight to c4, okay? So king to f3, of course, if this pawn pushes, we simply take it. There is a try here with g4 check, but after we capture, the king goes over. If you would like to pause, how do we win here as white? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the idea is knight to d2. And then black has to do something, either move away, which is not what they want to do, or push the pawn. But then we slide over. And yes, they can push it, hoping that we take and they take us and they get their trade. But instead, we'll play knight to f3 check. Forces the king back. We simply take this with our king. The knight is still stopping this guy. And next move, we come back and we're fine. We win, okay? So it doesn't quite work out for black. So they can't push this pawn. They can't push this pawn. Obviously, this pawn is stuck. Have to make a king move. You can't come up. You can't go here. And so you have to move back somewhere, right? And so king to e6 makes the most sense for black. And now, if you would like to pause, how do we proceed as white? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is king to g4. And what we are doing is threatening to, of course, just take the pawns, right? We're just going to come here, take this, and then push this guy. We've got this pawn covered with our knight. It doesn't really make sense for black to attack us. We would just draw back. We have plenty of time here to, gobble up these pawns, sacrifice our knight eventually, and we will win. So for example, something like this, we could just take it, move our knight probably just over here, and this is going to be a win for us. Black's king is too far. This guy's going to become a queen. All right. That's kind of the idea. So because of that, the only thing for black to do, king to f6, defending the pawn. Now, if you would like to pause, how do we proceed from here? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, there's a nice little maneuver that happens now, and it starts with the move knight to d2. And what we're doing is basically saying to black, well, you don't have a lot of options. You can't move this pawn, you can't move this pawn, you can't move this one. You have to move your king, but you have to stay defending this pawn, which means the only move for black is king to g6. And then again, we play another move where it's kind of like not giving black a lot of options. We took away that square. And of course, the king wants to continue defending this so we don't take it with our king. So king to h6. Now, this would be a huge blunder, right, if we took the pawn with our knight, because we allow this pawn to become a queen and now we lose. So we can't do that, but what can we do instead? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is king to f5. And again, we're saying to black, what are you going to do? You don't really have any options. You want to keep defending the pawn. So king to h5. And again, if you would like to pause, what's the move here? If you had a chance to look at that, the move is knight to f6 check. Now, this one's interesting, but we're actually setting up something. This is why we need to go here. It forces black to go to h6, knight to g4 check. And again, it's forcing black to go here to continue to defend the pawn. Of course, if black goes back, we simply take this. And there's a very nice move here. After d2, notice our knight is in time to stop the pawn. This is important, right? Before, in the other variation, it couldn't get here. But now that it can, it gives us some extra time. So because of that, of course, black doesn't want to run away. So they play king to h5. And now if you would like to pause, there's a very nice idea hiding in this position. What do you think it is? If you had a chance to look at that, it's the move king to f6. And what we are doing here is basically saying, I don't care about this pawn anymore. I'm going to just abandon it. Okay? And so d2 is the only move for black because the king is stuck. King to g7, allowing black to get the queen. Why? Because we have a beautiful checkmate. Knight to f6 is actually checkmate. Notice how the king was actually coming around to box in black's king, and then the knight's delivering the mate. And so we had just enough time to do it before the black queen could get involved in the game. So really nice idea. Tough to spot from a distance, but congratulations if you found that. Now at this point, the magician was impressed with Bobby Fischerman's skill at solving the puzzle. He said, congratulations, now let's go. I'll take you to the festival and we'll check out some of these puzzles and we'll see how well you can do at the competition. And with that, he and Bobby Fischerman set off in the direction of the end of the road. And that's where we'll pick up our story next time. As always, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.